What's good, everyone? Hope everyone's doing all right tonight. So, before I discuss Jan Jackson's new documentary that premiered January 28th, it was actually like 4 parts to it. So, the first night it showed 2 parts, and then the next night it was 2 more parts. So, yeah, before I touch on that, I want to talk about things that happened in the news so far. Well, supposedly Nick Cannon will be having an 8th child, and it will be a boy. So, congrats to him. And recently, a guy by the name of Peter Dinklage, he's a actor that has been to be a dwarf. He was in Game of Thrones as Tyrion. So he came out recently bashing the upcoming Snow White live action movie. And they cast a Latina as Snow White. And so he's not a happy camper about the dwarfs or what have you. Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. So he said recently on a podcast saying how there's a lot of hypocrisy going on. Literally no offense to anyone, but I was a little taken aback when they were very proud to cast a Latina actress as Snow White, but you're still telling the story of Snow White and Seven Dwarfs. Take a step back and look at what you're doing there. It makes no sense. You're progressive in one way, but then you're still making that fucking backward story about 7 dwarfs living in a cave together. What the fuck are you doing, man? Have I done nothing to advance the cause for my soapbox? I guess I'm not loud enough. I don't know which studio that is, but they were so proud of it. All love and respect to the actress and all the people who thought they were doing the right thing, but I'm just like, what are you doing? So after he made that statement on a podcast, Disney came out saying that they were going to talk to the little people community to see what they can do to fix the issue, what have you. Hey, Randy, how are you? My opinion about that, I mean, dwarfs should be treated like human beings doing everyday things, not just being seen as mythical beings or whatever. So I see where they're coming from in that regard, but I mean, I don't feel they should scrap the movie. Just do something different, like, because there's been dwarfs that were in their feelings about what he said because they feel like he's taking jobs away from other dwarfs who may want to be in the movie. But I don't think they should scrap it. They should just, switch it up a little. Hell, make Snow White get with one of the dwarves. I mean, that's just my 2 cents. But anyways, want to talk about Janet Jackson's documentary I watched. So yeah, I watched it today. And what they touched on where they grew up as a family. They grew up in Gary, Indiana. And they touched on how they lived in a house where it was just 2 bedrooms with 9 kids. Can you imagine that? Hey, Randy, how are you? So, they brought up that the address 23 Jackson Street was actually around. It wasn't just added to the street, because I used to think that 2300 Jackson Street was an address they just added since the Jacksons lived there, but it just happened to be the address prior. So that's the only thing I didn't know. And so, yeah, Janet, she moved from Gary when she was 8. And they brought up how when they first moved to California, that they experienced racism, living in that neighborhood called Encino, California. Like, it was so crazy. The neighbors put out a petition to try to get them out of the neighborhood, some crazy shit. And Janet brought up how they were telling them they should go back to Africa and all this crazy shit. Yeah. And then they, touched on her being on Good Times. I mean, the only part I wish they would have touched on her is when she was on Different Strokes. She just talked about Good Times and like skipped it all the way to the TV show Fame. I wish she would have like touched on her time on Different Strokes. And she brought up how she was doing albums under her dad or whatever. And her dad, Joe, he was so strict. Like he didn't allow his children call him dad or anything. They just had to call him by his first name. So yeah, if anyone didn't know, Control album, that's actually her third album because she did other albums prior when she was under her father. So Control, that album is really her breaking away under her father. She wanted more creative control. Randy says, I had 8 siblings with me, makes 9. Okay. Yeah. So, anyways, yeah, Janet dropped Control. And she fired her father as a manager because she wanted to do her own thing. And that dropped in 1986. And oh my gosh, like watching that documentary just brought back memories for some nostalgic purposes. Like, I loved me some Janet Jackson growing up. Like, her videos were so innovative. Like, you can rewatch that shit to this day. Like, yeah. Like, all her songs were dope. Like, I listened to every Janet Jackson song, and none of them were bad. And so, anyways, they touched on her first marriage with James DeBarge. And another fun fact, LaToya Jackson dated one of James DeBarge's brothers. His name was Bobby DeBarge, and he was in a group called Switch. And he passed away from AIDS back in 1995. So yeah, Janet married James DeBarge. And yeah, they weren't married long, and he had sort of a drug problem. And so she said how she had to hide drugs from him and had to constantly search for him because she wouldn't hear from him and all that. So it didn't work out with them, so they got a divorce. Hey, Jess, how are you? So yeah, they got a divorce, and she got with this guy she ended up marrying named Renee. And no one in the public even knew that she was married. Like, by the time people found out she was getting divorced. So Janet did a good job keeping that a secret. And she also addressed for the longest, you know, the DeBarge family been running around saying how she had a secret baby by James and didn't tell him. She addressed that and said she would never keep a child away from him. So that's not true that she had a secret baby by James. She said her weight gain was from using birth control. So yeah, she debunked that. Now she never like brings up about having a fling with Bobby Brown, so she didn't mention that, and she never mentions that. But Bobby, he talks about that constantly. But Jan, you will never get Jan to talk about the time she had with Bobby. So yeah, she didn't talk about that in the documentary. And so yeah, she talked about the process of doing Rhythm Nation, and it was like a clip where they were where her and Jimmy James was having a disagreement or whatever, and it was like arguing, and that album almost didn't get made because they were having like creative conflicts or whatever. But they was able to work things out. And fun fact, like her second ex-husband was in Poetic Justice. He was one of the mailmen from that scene y'all in where Tupac was going in on him. So that was him in that movie. And that infamous like cover she did where a guy was like holding her boobs, that was him holding her tits. So yeah, that's another fun fact. And he also like directed her music videos. Like he directed that Again song. He directed that. He starred in Come Back to Me with her. So yeah. And she also, touched on having to deal with the first allegation regarding her brother Mike. And she brought up how after he did Thriller, like they wasn't as close anymore after that. And they showed a clip of her and Michael coming up with the song Scream. And yeah, I love the shit out of that song when I was younger. Like, and that music video, Scream, it was very expensive. That was an expensive video, and I love the shit out of that video and the song. And also, Janet didn't bring up how she was trying to get Tupac to take an AIDS test because Tupac brought that up years ago about how she requested they take an AIDS test, which is weird because like you're not actually having sex with him, so why would you need an AIDS test? Hey Teron, how are you? So she didn't bring that up. And Regina King, she brought up how her Janet and Tupac had chemistry. And she was also in the movie. Teron says Janet is a great dancer. Hell yeah, she is super. She's a good performer. As far as her singing voice, I mean, she don't have a powerhouse voice, but I feel her voice fits with certain music. Like I like when she does like rock songs, like something. I like the way her voice like changes depending on the song. Like when she's doing a rock song, her voice gets more aggressive and stuff. Like I like that voice of her when she does that. But yeah, she's a good performer and she's a legend. But yeah, I mean, I was feeling very nostalgic watching that documentary because they was playing all the songs and videos I grew up watching and stuff. So I loved the hell out of her when I was a kid. Like I used to like do all the dances. Hey Joker, how are you? Just says Janet can't act worth a damn. I mean, it was different when she played that character in Poi Just. It was different. It was funny. I'm gonna tell you what was funny because the part was when her and Tupac were cussing each other back and forth. I'm like, damn. She got real hood when she was going in on him. And I'm like, Janet's so soft spoken and off camera. That's would be the funny part. Like, she's so soft spoken in interviews, but when she's on stage or acting the role, she's a total different person. But yeah, when she's not performing, she's very soft spoken. So it was real funny hearing her cuss Tupac out. Randy says a family friend played in Poetic Justice, Derek Gover. He was also in Boys in the Hood. Oh, okay. So yeah, what else they touched on the documentary? Oh, also they brought up how this was another crazy thing, like with the whole she had a secret baby by James DeBarge. They came out with rumors saying how one of her siblings raised them, like accusing her. But first of all, they thought Reevy's daughter was really Janet's daughter, and then they was accusing Randy's daughter of really being Janet's. I mean, it was so crazy. But yeah, she debunked that. And then they brought up the whole Super Bowl situation, which I'm gonna get into that shit because that Super Bowl situation was some bullshit, and that should never had effect of her career. Like Justin got off really scot free. Like how the fuck is she catching more heat behind that? Like they disinvited her from the Grammys behind that. over a fucking titty, and it was an accident. Hell, and when I actually watched the Super Bowl when that went down, and I barely noticed what the fuck went down until the following day people were bringing it up. And she said in the documentary that she told Justin not to say anything. What stood out, he told her, "Oh, I don't know if I should say anything about it when all that went down," and she just advised him, "Oh, you shouldn't do it because it might hurt your career." But I don't listen. It was bullshit. He should have defended her a little. You know what I mean? Because it's like you got off really scot free. You were invited to the Grammys. You had all these accolades, and Janet had to suffer from what you did. You took her shit off and caused a goddamn wardrobe malfunction, but yet she get blamed for the shit. To me, I just felt like it was some misogynistic shit. Tripping over a fucking titty, really? Oh, and another fun fact: the people that came up with YouTube, that's actually what inspired them to come up with YouTube when they seen the malfunction, because that was considered viral. So it inspired them to create YouTube, if you guys didn't know that. Just says the interesting part about that situation is Homeboy that had her blackballed eventually got blackballed his damn self. Yeah, he has not. Like, his last album was a flop, Justin. I like Justin music, but I'm sorry, he just got away with just piggybacking off of women. Like, first his ex, Britney Spears, and then that situation with Janet. Like, he been getting all this accolades off of these women. Because when he dropped that first song, like I Love You, like nobody was really like feeling it. But as soon as he dropped Cry Me a River, that's when everybody was on his dick. And it was only because he had a look-alike Britney in the video, and the whole song was about her. Just says, I watched that game as well as the performance, and they ain't show that part. It was so like quick. Like I was watching the Super Bowl, and I didn't even notice about the titty slit. I didn't even notice that. And they said that, and these dramatic ass people sitting here talking about, oh, think of the children and all that shit. All this crazy shit. I'm like a child. I'm like, okay, okay, it was an accident. I didn't feel I was what you call it? I didn't feel I was damaged over a titty being shown. Like I didn't even notice it shit until the people brought it up. Like it's just weird to me how this country is when it comes to a goddamn titty. Like Janet didn't deserve all that hell she was catching from that. It was ridiculous. Like they act like she killed somebody. Like it was just a fucking it was an accident. God damn. And that pissed me off because it really like hurt her album sales. And I listened to her albums, you know what I'm saying? They were still, and they were good, and they purposely didn't promote her music for the longest over that situation. It was so stupid. Just says, crazy enough, Justin Timberlake's career was on its way out around the time. I didn't even know about it until the media talked about it the next day. Yeah, the media hyped that shit up. Like, it wasn't even that damn deep. Like, it was crazy to me during that time. Like, didn't understand that all that hell Janet was getting. I didn't feel she deserved the hell she was getting. And Also in the documentary, she brought up how she took all these fertility drugs to get herself pregnant, and she had her first child at 50. But see, she got money. She can afford to people like that can afford to take all these fertility stuff to get themselves pregnant. And the child is 5 right now. So yeah, I mean, the documentary it was okay. It was okay. It was put it like this, like it was if you're a Janet fan, you would already know like most of the stuff that's talked about. Like she brought up, her emotional eating, like she said, when she's stressed out, she eats. And she brought up Michael teasing her about her weight growing up and how that affected her. Stuff I already knew. I knew about, Joseph being strict and hard on his kids. I mean, but I mean, he grew up in a different era and he didn't want his kids to be in trouble, being in gangs and like all the other kids in the neighborhood. So he wanted the best for his kids in his own way. And another fun fact, Janet wanted to go to college, but her dad told her, "No, you're not going to college. You're going to perform." So she wanted to go to college to be a business lawyer. And Joseph wanted her to be a performer. Yeah. So, they brought up, Michael's death. I mean, and I was that I literally cried, when Michael passed. I was a Michael stan. Like I boohoo cried when Michael passed. They brought up Joseph, passing as well. But yeah, I really literally cried when Mike passed. I think the whole world did, honestly. It was very shocking. So yeah, I hope she, drops some more music. I mean, I remember the last song she dropped called Bake Me Now. Like the last album she dropped was like back in 2015. And I gotta say, man, Janet never put out a bad album. Like I went back, listened to all the music, going back to nostalgic era, and I'm like, yo, her music was so good. Like she had some good ass songs. Just says I was at Taco Bell grubbing the day Michael died. Man, someone like I found out the day I found out Michael died. I found out someone told me on MySpace. It was like, oh my gosh, did you hear about Michael? I was like, what's going on with Michael? He was like, oh, he's in the hospital. And I like turned it on CNN. I was like, oh my gosh. And I thought he was gonna be okay, but then, they said he passed away, and I like was in shock. I was boohoo crying, like I was crying for days. Like that's how affected I was, because I grew up with Michael and listen to his music, you know, and And it was always my dream growing up. I would have wanted to see a Michael concert. I never got that chance. But yeah, she also brought up how she was trying to get Michael and the brothers to perform again, and Mike turned that down. He wasn't down with that. And she was saying how people in his inner circle was like trying to get him away from the family. She brought that up. And she also said, like, during the filming of Scream, how people in the inner circles like trying to not have her in the same video as her brother, like they or whatever. So yeah. And when I heard that song Scream, I was like, yo, that shit was dope. And what was wild about it, that was the first time Michael even used profanity, because in the song he was like, just stop fucking with me. I was like, oh my gosh, and Michael over there cussing. Because most of his music was like squeaky clean, like for the most part. He like that was the first time he even used profanity in that song. Yeah, and like during the time when he had the allegations, you know, she was supposed to get that contract for Coca-Cola, and then when the first allegations went down, you know, they dropped her, basically guilty by association. So yeah. And she you know, brought up her ex Jermaine Dupri. He was in the documentary talking as well. They talked about why they broke up. And, you know, I already knew. But yeah, they broke up because he was cheating on her. And he said how women were wanting him more when he was with Janet or whatever. And, you know, from seeing how they were together, I mean, I thought they were a cute couple, honestly. She seemed a lot happier with him, and she wanted to have kids with him during that time. Well, yeah, I don't know what the fuck he was thinking cheating on Janet. Like, dude, you're dating Janet fucking Jackson. But yeah, everybody thinks, yeah, we are not exempt to get cheated on, unfortunately. Not even fucking Janet Jackson. But yeah, I thought they really was in love though. I can tell like she was really happy being with him. She also said, you know, also he was a workaholic, so that's another reason they broke up as well. Not just the cheating aspect, but like the fact that they weren't seeing each other as much. Yeah, and he also brought up how when she was disinvited from the Grammys after the Titty Gate, that he distanced himself from the Grammys when they pull that bullshit. You know, the sick by his woman. But yeah, I wouldn't. That was some bullshit. That situation at the Super Bowl. That was some bullshit. How they treated her, and treated her like she killed somebody, while Justin can thrive and have a career and shit. Like that was some bullshit. That was some misogynistic shit. just says Jermaine Dupri thinks he's still relevant in 2022. That should tell you a lot about why he was feeling himself when he was with Janet. Yeah, Jermaine, who didn't want to date Janet? Like, he got lucky. Like, when he started dating her, I know a lot of men felt like damn, I could have dated Janet. But yeah, I thought they was really into each other from what I observed. Now Jermaine, I mean, I like some of the stuff he produced. I mean, shit, he came up with Crisscross. You know, he founded them. I mean, he was running shit in the ATL. People during that time wanted to work with him. And Jan started working with him, music wise. Yeah. So I'm about to get off of here. Just want to touch on the documentary. But yeah, if y'all haven't seen it, you can watch it on Lifetime or A&E. You know, you can watch it on demand as well. But yeah, it was overall okay documentary. Just that he put Escape on as well. Yep, he put a lot of people on. And hell, I mean, I fucked with his music, the production he put out. Hell, he did good producing Mariah's album, The Emancipation of Mimi. Like, I wore that album out. Like, that was my shit. But yeah, y'all, holla at y'all. Y'all have a good night. Peace.